Hi there. So just like most girls, I am really into my jewelry and my accessories. And because of that, I decided to take a look at the environmental impacts of jewelry. To begin with, gold mining is an activity that has severe consequences on the environment. Each year in the United States, it is estimated that 1 billion tons of waste rock and 1 billion tons of milled ore are being produced, and much of this waste contain mercury and cyanide. The combination of soil erosion and the seeping of these heavy poisonous metals, they have a huge impact on biodiversity and wildlife because all these animals, they drink water from these river streams. Although there are some states that have strict and severe regulations on mine waste and runoff, this is still a major issue because the Environmental Protection Agency reported that 40% of the watershed headwaters in the western United States are being affected by mining operations. The EPA has plans to clean up 500,000 defunct metal mines in 32 states, and that's going to cost them more than $35 billion. On top of that, mercury from these wastes would get released into the air, which affects air quality. So in general, mining is one of those human activities that virtually obliterates the natural landscape. In fact, the biggest gold mine is actually a crater in Utah, and it is so big that it's actually visible from outer space. The thing is that many of these mining corporations are not just working in developed countries, but they're also working in developing countries. And developing countries are very different from developed countries in a sense that they have higher levels of corruption, they have lax and lenient regulations, and environment isn't really considered and given a priority. An example of that is the American mining company called Freeport-McMoRan. So they own a mine in Indonesia called the Grasberg mine, and that mine dumps 80 million tons of waste debris into the Edgewater River every single year. Aside from environmental issues, obviously we know that mining is associated with other negative consequences as well, such as forced labor and child labor, violence, poverty, civil wars, etc. These large profitable mining companies have a lot of influence over these issues. They can choose to work with countries that are associated with violence, corruption, and forced labor, or they could choose to work with countries that are not like that. And the same goes for environmental issues. The way these mining companies run their operations would either increase or decrease their environmental impact. An example of that is Hoover and Strong Inc. They've developed a refining process that uses 80% less chemicals than their former process. And what's interesting is that even though it costs them $400,000 to $500,000 to implement this process, and it's going to save them only $10,000 in chemical waste disposal, they went ahead and implemented this process anyway because they feel that it is their obligation to care for the environment in the long term. Another thing that these companies can do that would make a positive impact on the environment is by conserving water. And that's what Rio Grande did. They replaced their heating and cooling systems, and it saved them 1.5 million gallons of water per year. And it also cut their water bills by $28,800 and their gas bill by $17,100. And finally, one of the ways that companies can make a more positive impact is by increasing energy efficiency. One of the companies is called Pomeroy, and they enrolled their local electricity provider to the program called Blue Skies Program. It's basically an option for them to buy their power from alternative sources. The Blue Skies Program also contributes to the habitat restoration of 12 rivers in the USA. Again, what's great about doing this is that it saves the company costs as well. Cities like New York City, they give out incentives for companies who use alternative sources, and these companies can recoup their costs in less than 2 years' time. Aside from that, obviously consumers can do their part as well. What consumers can do is by shopping their jewelry from eco-friendly and sustainable jewelry makers, or either that they could buy vintage jewelry. In short, clearly mining has huge environmental and social impacts, and I think that these mining companies should do as much as they can to minimize these consequences. The government should also penalize those companies that are engaged in unsustainable and unethical practices, and the government should also incentivize these mining companies to engage in a more environmentally friendly practices. And that's it for this vlog. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next round. Bye!